bringing news from a different page. Truth served hot and bold and strong. Every week we sing along. Red, white, and true will stand tall. Echo the call loudest of all. With hearts of faith and liberty, together we find unity. Stories that make you think and pray. A light awaits at the end of day. Guided by the stars and stripes, through the stormiest of nights. Red, white, and true will stand tall. Echo the call loudest of all. With hearts of faith and liberty, together we find unity. When the world feels like a fight, hold your ground, stand for what's right. In the truth we'll find our way. Ed and Ronnie light the way. Red, white, and true we'll stand tall. Echo the call loudest of all. With hearts of faith and liberty, together we find unity. Red, white, and true will stand tall. Echo the call loudest of all. With hearts of faith and liberty, together we find unity. Together we find unity.
From the heart of America to the heart of DC, everyone likes Ed and Ronnie.
I stay updated by watching Ed and Ronnie.
Hey there, yeah, I'm talking to you. Name's Clyde. I'm a Cardinal, obviously, but here's the thing. I am absolutely hooked on Ed and Ronnie's live streams. Can't help it. Every Tuesday, I plop down in this nest, seeds on standby, and tune in. They bring the truth like a tailwind.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Red, White, and True with Ed and Ronnie. I'm Ed. Ronnie's not here. Knock, knock, knock. Ronnie. Knock, knock. Oh, Ronnie's not going to be here tonight, guys. So you got some goofy old pastor guy that's going to be with you for the next hour, and we'll try to make the best of it. Hopefully you can find information out here that maybe you don't already know. Maybe you have questions that you'd like to ask. I'll see if I can find answers. Excuse me. And we'll just do our very best to have a good time in the Lord. And the best way to do that is to start off with prayer. Father in heaven, I come to you tonight, and I thank you for the opportunity to host Red, White, and True with Ed and Ronnie. I pray that you take good care of Ronnie tonight and just be with him, be with this venture that we have together here, Red, White, and True, that we will always follow your will, that we'll always do what you would have us to do. And as I always pray, Father, help us to say and do the right thing. Be with our nation, be with all of those that need prayer. And Father, I just thank you for this opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen. If you're watching right now and we may not know who you are, if you would throw in the comments who you are and where you're watching from. Would love to know that. If you've not liked us or followed us or whatever the social media, way of doing that is on where you're watching. If you do that, we would appreciate that. We're trying to grow our audience, and we've had some good success. We have listeners all over the country, and we even have a couple of listeners that show up from other nations around the world. Not lots. I don't want to be braggish on something that is not actually there, but that's where we are. I wanted to start off tonight with a correction. That would be, we played a video late in the show on Monday night, and it was a video of Sean Hannity, and the gist of it was that he was leaving the Catholic Church, and he was upset with the back and forth between the president and the Pope. I should have known better. I knew this and had totally forgotten, but that correction, we aired that clip that made it look like he was just now leaving the Catholic Church. But after doing some investigating, I found out that the video wasn't legit. He actually left, he being Sean Hannity, actually left the Catholic Church several years ago, around 2019. And there's no verified statement from him saying he's making a new break in the current situation. To be clear, the Pope, Pope Leo, and Donald Trump have had a back and forth, but it appears that what we saw Monday night was AI generated, and that's on us. We do our best to make sure we get it right, so we're correcting that tonight. Truth does matter. We're red, white, and true, not red, white, and maybe, or red, white, and oops. We're red, white, and true. And to do that, you need to do the right thing. And that's where the correction tonight comes in. I've watched a couple of live streams from other folks in the last couple of days. And it's interesting. I find that the live stream agenda right now seems to be kind of boring. Wonder why. We got war going on. We got elections and primaries coming up all over the country. Where this is a midterm election. Those are always very interesting. It has a lot of implications on how President Trump will be able to govern his final 2 years in office. And so why would things just seem kind of boring? And I don't know. I don't know if I have a great answer to that. Obviously, the big thing on the agenda is the war in Iran. And it's just kind of in a weird stage right now. A ceasefire is a ceasefire, even when one side doesn't necessarily hold to the ceasefire. But so there's that. You wouldn't expect, or I would hope you wouldn't expect, my camera is going away. I would hope you wouldn't expect Iran to keep their word on a ceasefire or anything for that matter. So, that's not something that would seem boring. I'm a little bothered by the fact that we continue over and over and over to extend the ceasefire. I think there's some serious issues right now with who's in charge. And so maybe that is what's on the president's mind about who are we actually negotiating with? Are we negotiating with the official government leaders, or are we negotiating with the IRGC? And who is in charge may not be the same as who we are negotiating with. It appears from what I'm reading that the military has taken over from the civilian leadership. I don't know if civilian leadership would be how I would actually phrase that, but you can tell that what I mean by the difference there. If the military is 100% in charge, that should represent a coup, because whether we believe they're good or not good, there are actually elections in Iran. And if the military takes over, which come see, come saw, same, all of those things. But it's good to know who you're negotiating with. You can't negotiate, if you want to negotiate a deal with me, but Amy's going to make all the decisions, you might as well go straight to Amy, right? And so that's kind of where it is with the negotiations. If you think you're negotiating with the government, but the military is going to make all the decisions, then you might as well go straight to who is the decision maker. And many things would lead me to believe that the military is in charge. One, the veracity that they are spewing forth in the media seems to be military. The fact that they took 3 different ships hostage in the last 24 hours, fired on them, have escorted them to the Iranian territory, ships that were in the Persian Gulf. I don't personally know what is keeping Trump from blowing the smithereens out of those that are in charge. And I'm just saying, he is showing restraint. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I continue to say, and I've heard 2 different experts, which I don't include myself as, but 2 experts that say exactly what I've been saying, is that if this conflict ends and the IRGC is still intact and in power, then it's a serious problem for the folks that are left behind in Iran. And one of the things that bothers me so much about that is, and it's bothered me since this started, a little bit before the actual fighting started, you remember all of those protests that were going on. The Iranian people were standing up and they were fighting with their voice. They were coming out and not staying hidden. And the president told them to continue to be brave, that help is on the way. And then it took a whole long time, and many thousand people died while waiting for help to be on the way. I take that as personal. We made a commitment to help those that are in Iran. We didn't have regime change listed, and I don't have a direct line to the president, but if I could talk to him, I would say, and he always says 47 years of this and 47 years of that. Well, it would continue on with many of the same things that the last 47 years have shown us if they stay in charge. Now, the big thing has always been getting the nukes off the table. Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Iran has proven over and over and over again that they are not to be trusted, that they are, you can put whatever adjective in front of it you would like, but, you know, the most lying regime probably in modern times, for sure. I can't say the history of the world, but in modern times, for sure. If they say if we say the Persian Gulf is blue, they would definitely say the Persian Gulf is red and tell you that it's going to be red because they're going to blow up the entire American Navy fleet that is there. And so you see what I'm saying. But I also understand that we need to get this behind us. If we want to be fast, we make a deal, and I believe that the Iranian people get screwed. If we want to put the safety of the citizens of Iran up the list, it's going to take a little while. But let's get started. In the words of a famous American, let's roll. Let's do it. Let's get on with it. And I'm not a warmonger. I know that if we do what we've got to do to make that happen, we're going to lose more lives. And I take that very serious. But we need to do it. We need to, we can't just halfway do something. We can't tell people that help is on the way and then say, I was just kidding. It's not right. So we need to do that. We've got the ability to do that. I understand the economy issue, but putting it off is not going to help the economy because every other day something happens. The Iranians open the strait. The Iranians close the strait. The Iranian says the Persian Gulf is open. The Iranians capture and hold 4 ships that are not Iranian. So there's always going to be something that pushes out the ceasefire. Gets to the point where people are going to wonder what we're waiting for. What we're waiting for. So I would say, let's roll. Today is let's see what number it is. '78th anniversary of Israel and their independence back from 1948 is an amazing thing to be able to celebrate. So happy Independence Day to our brothers and sisters in Israel and the Jewish nation all around the world that are God's chosen people. And I know there's lots of controversy out right now. I know there's lots of anti-Semitism almost going unnoticed right now. But I know that there's a lot that, I don't know, from places that I didn't expect, from places that I now tune out. I now tune out Candace Owens. I now tune out Tucker Carlson. 2 people that I really enjoyed listening to in the past, but I'm not sure what switch was flipped, but they definitely had a flipped switch in their lives. And, well, It is what it is. I'm going to take a quick break, and I will be right back.
We're taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. Ed and Ronnie will be right back in just a few seconds. Thank you so much for supporting Red, White, and True. Did you know that your interactions with us on social media are vital to making sure that we continue to grow our audience? Please follow us on all major social media platforms, especially our Facebook page, so we can continue to share Christ through current events and more here on this live stream. Okay, just a little bit longer to make sure that you go grab your coffee, soda, or whatever you want, so we can continue with today's live stream. All right? Are you ready? Here we go. Here again are Ed and Ronnie.
Well, there was a very, very important election that took place in Virginia. On the ballot was the redistricting of the congressional districts in the state. There are 11 in Virginia. Currently, those 11 are split 6 Democrats to 5 Republicans. So they being the Democrats, hold a 1-seat lead there in the state of Virginia. The redistricting would result in, if things trend the way they have in the past, would be that it would be 10 Democrat seats and 1 Republican seat. Seriously, while the opening was playing, I was scrolling through and I seen a friend of mine who lives in Virginia. It's kind of weird. I lived in Virginia for 4 years, but I was friends with him when he was when we were in the military together. I got out, he stayed and retired. But let me see if I can find what he said here real quick. He said it perfectly. I always got to think about his name because he went by a nickname, and that's not what he's under on Facebook. Nine hours ago, my friend David Griner, we knew him as Grinch, said, "Shame on Virginia. A nearly 50-50 state has just voted 50.7% to 49.3%, pretty close vote, to gerrymander our congressional delegation from 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans to 10 and 1. Virginia, a state that was dominant in our nation's founding to give every person and every region a voice in government. The Virginia voices stood up to the influential Massachusetts delegation to ensure this principle. Massachusetts was so taken by Virginians that they appointed a Virginian as commander-in-chief and later president. In 2020, endorsed by the Democrat Party, a nonpartisan redistricting constitutional amendment was approved that Princeton called a model for the nation. The amendment passed with 67% of the vote. 4 years later, comfortable with a controlling majority in the House of Delegates and new progressive left governor, the Democrats reversed this great model, violated the Constitution, and had a law signed that instituted the 10-1 legislative delegation, using a tired argument and ignored that most of the Northeast states, Illinois and California, had already had Democrat-heavy delegations that ignored their Republican populations. Massachusetts, New Mexico, Maine, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and I'm going to stop myself because I glanced down because I didn't read all the way through this the first time. It's actually a friend of my friends that wrote this, so want to make sure I correct that. Massachusetts, New Mexico, Maine, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, Hawaii, Delaware collectively have 42% Republican voters and 0 Republican congressional seats. California is 38% Republican, but Republicans hold 19% of the seats. Likewise, Illinois is 44% Republican, but they only represent 17% of their delegation. So when the cite Texas and North Carolina as Republican examples, they ignore the actual imbalances. We need to move a concept of congressional districts where the state's delegation reflects the political state of its population, not the simple will of the narrow majority. There's a reason why we are a representative republic and not a pure democracy. Let's hope the courts invalidate this blatant violation of our founders' vision of proportional representation. Now, with that being said, a judge today has already ruled this ballot measure invalid. And it needed to be invalid. And here's the deal. Both sides do it, but that doesn't make either side right. Did they do it in Texas? Absolutely, they did in Texas. They turned around and redid it in California and negated that. And now, here with this one, made it a huge gerrymandering event. You shouldn't be able to make up the rules as you go along. Do I have an answer on how to do that? I really don't, because the elections belong to the states. I don't know. If you've got a good solution to this topic, put a comment in and let's see if we can figure this out. We need a solution to this, and yes, we do. So the judge in this case ruled today that the state's redistricting referendum approved by voters a day earlier was invalid, nullifying the election results. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones said he would immediately file an appeal. Virginia voters have spoken, and an activist judge should not have veto power over the people's votes. It's interesting how both sides say the exact same things when the shoe's on the other foot. Because we've heard that same thing come from the right side of the aisle. But whether it's right, left, it's more right and wrong. And I think we forget that that's the two choices. Right and wrong. Right with a W. No, not right with a W. Oh, okay, go ahead. Laugh. Right and wrong versus left and right. All those rights with an R. Ooh. You see, I won't be posting that as a clip on TikTok. Some liberal might want to. That's okay. Red, White, and True with Ed and Ronnie. Make sure you get that part in there as well, because we admit we mess up on occasion, and we go back and correct it. And if you don't believe that, go back and look at the beginning of this live stream, and you'll see a correction that I made from a previous episode. Let's take a look at Senator Kennedy here. He is not just one of, but our favorite person to listen to. He's humorous, but boy, he is dead on with most things. Let me share my screen. And let me turn this on.
I don't hate anybody. I've said that before standing here. I don't. I do not. When I pray, I pray. God, don't let me hate, because it is hard up here. It's not worth it. But if I had a short list of people that I would consider hating, Congressman Eric Swalwell would be on it. He has undermined the confidence of the American people in this body. Here's my impression of Congressman Eric Swalwell eating an ice cream cone. You know why I do that? Life is hard, but it's harder when you're stupid. And if you're going to be stupid, by God, you better be tough. This is no country for creepy old men. And Congressman Swalwell, he about to find that out. Karma may be slow, but it's almost always on time. I don't know whether I ought to do this, but I'm going to do it. I don't hate anybody. I've said that before standing here. I don't.
So, more serious, even when he made his insults, he was a little more on the serious side than he normally is. I kind of wish that we could see Swalwell with his ice cream cone in his forehead, and we'd go on from there. Looking at the U.S. Central Command X site, they're taking this lull in time to kind of just promote the members of the military, U.S. soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardians, and Coast Guardsmen are deployed across the Middle East as part of the strongest and most lethal military the world has ever known. And quite frankly, I think Iran is getting ready to find that out again. One of the things that the ceasefire has done is allowed maintenance to be taken place, allowed munitions to be restocked, and supplies are up. It has given the forces some rest, and so you got to know they're raring to go. And I really believe that they're going to find out. And I am going to take another short break, not quite as long, to fix an issue here in the house real quick. So I'll be right back, 40 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Red, White, and True with Ed and Ronnie, and the show starts right now.
Okay, so I want to correct that, because it's kind of on my mind to make sure I'm getting right information out tonight. We aren't just starting the show. We've been on for 36 minutes and 31 seconds. But our security panel has a code that needs fixed, and didn't get that done before we started, so I needed to turn off the reminder. Of course, reminders and me are a good thing. We being me, need to be reminded about a lot of things. Let me go back to my X profile and look at some of the things that I have shared. We may have mentioned this on Monday. I think we did, but Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat, was caught openly rooting for Iran and has been taking severe heat. Scott Jennings, a conservative journalist, year of our Lord 2026, Democrat U.S. Senator, openly rooting for Iran to defeat the U.S. in battle. Every Dem on the Hill ought to be hounded today by every reporter to answer for this lunatic. And it shows the post that is being referenced. A person by the name of Ali Vez had posted at least 26 Iranian shadow fleet vessels bypass U.S. blockade. And he reposted it with the comment, awesome. Now, I know that he has said that was sarcasm. Boy, I like me some good sarcasm, but boy, you better be good at it, because it's got to be believable that it's sarcasm, that you're joking around, okay? You can't just badmouth the military all the time and then say something like he just said. And so Chris Murphy is another one of the leftists that need to just take a hike. I have thought this for many years. They don't make the news as much as they used to, but there is a non-government organization, which is a not-for-profit, basically, is what that means. A lot of NGOs were in the news in Minnesota when they caused an uproar with billions of dollars of fraud. Kash Patel announced this week that the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, and this is a quote, they use the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups. Those groups are the Ku Klux Klan and other hate groups to stage hate crimes. This law center let me just read again some words from Kash Patel. Furthermore, our investigation revealed that the Southern Poverty Law Center, on top of perpetuating this widespread, decade-long, multi-million-dollar fraud, conducted more criminal activity. The attempt to hide their criminal activity from our financial banking network. They attempted to do that. They set up shell companies and entities around America so that the financial institutions that we rely on as everyday Americans were deceived in believing that the money was not coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center in the perpetration of this scheme and fraud, but rather fictitious entities. They stood up to perpetuate this ongoing fraud. Now, their title is, not very stunning. Southern Poverty Law Center. Sounds pretty cut and dried, and has nothing to do with poverty. It has very little to do with law, and a lot of people on the left like to utilize them for a source. The Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, has deemed many organizations as hate groups, hate speech that they put out. They would say that Ronnie and I and Red, White, and True with Ed and Ronnie is a hate group. They would put that out, no doubt about it. Any basically Christian organization they would put out as a hate group using hate speech. And the left would use that as a source to say, Red, White, and True with Ed and Ronnie is a hate organization. And they actually have their website that lists who they say are hate groups. Most of those hate groups would think just like you and I, Christian conservatives. And so now all of a sudden they have been found out that they are a fraud, a phony, and I hope they're put out of business. Let's see I didn't look. I'm sure it would have been big news if it would have been broken, but I don't think the Mets have won since Monday night. So let me just type in here real fast. How long is the Met losing streak? That losing streak is now a dozen games going into tonight. Mets fans might be losing faith as losing streak reaches a dozen. Now, you might even say, what in the world are you even talking about? Well, it was 12 days ago or so that New York City Mayor Mamdani decided that he was going to meet with the mascots from the New York Mets, Mr. and Mrs. Met. Two human-sized mascots that have a huge baseball for a head and the Mets uniforms and all of that stuff for the rest. Since that time, 12 games in a row now, the Mets have lost every one of them. Now, I'm not making any assumptions. I'm not making any assumptions, but they have lost 12 games in a row. That's a fact. Mamdani met with them just before that. That's a fact. You can put two and two together. You can come up with whatever answer that you want, but we know the real answer. And we'll keep looking at this as time goes forward. I'm kind of personally hoping that let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm kind of hoping that the losing streak is about 16 games by the time we're on here the next time. We'll see. We'll see. Make sure that not there. I don't have anything. Oh, I do have something. But I am just going to skip right on over that. And I know it is a little early. When we go solo, it's more difficult, and I didn't plan on having a lot of videos. Videos are good, we use them, but you can go to YouTube and find videos, right? You can't go to YouTube and find out what Ronnie and I are going to share with you. I mean, you can find out the information, but you can't get our take until after we're done. So we'll be back Saturday. We are on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, a regular schedule now. Hopefully Ronnie will be able to be with us. And you just never know about what's going to happen in Iran. And if we have to come back and be a part of some live event coverage, we will certainly do so. Thank you for being with us. And I'm going to replay the same outro that Ronnie had for us on Monday. It is so good. His mom sent it to us, and it's amazing. Thank you for being with us. Take care in all that you do. And as always, go out and do the right thing.
When I was 8 years of age, my mother contracted polio. Our preacher came to see us, and it was not a good visit. And he said, I just wanted to come pray with you, which was polite. And then he said, the church does not want you to come back. We're afraid of the polio. And my mom said, well, I understand the fear. And she said, that's okay. She said, we won't come back. But she said, Pastor, could you do me one favor and pray that God would give me something to do for him? That preacher looked at my mom and said, Miss Gibbs, you need to understand God's through with you. My mom turned to that preacher and she said, you're wrong. She said, I'm extremely damaged goods, but God loves to use extremely damaged goods. And she said, you're wrong, Pastor. You're just wrong. When he left, my mom said, Davy, you come here. She said, God's never through with anybody. If you've got breath, you've got something to do for God. A new preacher came to town, and he dropped by our house to see us. He said, now, we don't have any kids, so there's no kids in our Sunday school, but we have a Sunday school, and how would you like to head that up? My mom said, I'd love to. And she said, now your Sunday school has 2 kids. And she said, I got a boy and a girl. He said, well, he said, it's perfect. And every Sunday, if there was just 2 of us, it was like there were 2,000 kids there. And she poured her heart into it. Pretty soon, people wanted to see this lady that talked to kids that's strapped in a wheelchair. And the Sunday school started to grow a little bit. And one day, my mom said, you know, we got to do something to bring more kids. There's a big bus company uptown. And she said, let's go up there and have them give us a bus so we can bring some kids to Sunday school. I said, Mom, I don't think they give them away. I don't think so. And she said, do you not understand? Ask, and you shall receive. Well, boy, came the day we're to go up to the bus company. This young receptionist sitting there, a girl, and she said, can I help you folks? And my mom said, yeah, we've come so you can give us a bus. And the girl looked a little puzzled, and she said, you mean you want to buy one, or you want to? She said, no, we don't have money. We need you to give it to us so we can get kids to Sunday school. And here comes the owner. The owner comes down, nice man. He says, lady, I understand you want me to give you a bus, and I'm not going to do it. And he said, there's something tearing me up inside, and that's why I'm here. My mom said, well, can I tell you one thing? He said, sure, go ahead. She said, one day when you stand before God, he's going to be awfully upset with you if you don't give me a bus. That owner looked at my mom and he said, I got a question. If I give you a bus, who'd drive it? He said, you? And my mom looked at him and she said, I never thought of that. She said, I need for you to give me a bus and a driver. That man looked at my mom and he said, lady, he said, something's just tearing me up. Do you understand? Our God is in control. He said, here's the deal. I'm going to give you one bus, one driver, one Sunday. One and only one. And I stood there and I thought, I don't believe this. She got a bus and a driver. My mom said, oh, thanks. But she said, can I say one more thing? She said, there's two sides to town. I was too fearful to ask for two. I really need two buses and two drivers. He said, lady, here's the deal. I'll give you two buses and two drivers for one Sunday. But she said, you got to promise me God knows about this. And my mom said, oh, I will. He only gave us two buses and two drivers for one Sunday because the second Sunday he gave us three. And within less than 2 years, he was giving us 35 buses and 35 drivers every Sunday. The Sunday school that had no kids in 5 years' time never had less than 5,000 children in it. And it was all run by a lady. Who couldn't do anything for herself, who in her own words was extremely damaged goods. But she's right, God loves to use damaged goods. When it was all done, that bus owner wrote my mom a letter and he said, Miss Gibbs, because you cared about a bus and believed God was in control, he said, my whole family's saved. Every driver in my company is saved. Then he said, I don't know how you got me to paint those buses the church colors, but we even did that. I said, Mom, look at this. She said, I didn't do it. But I serve a God who does all things well. And he is in control.